Welcome to Hollywood as I live and work.
It feels good to be a director. It's a lot more responsibility. At times it was overwhelming. But, you know, the challenge of it and the responsibility of it, I was prepared for and ready to take on. And I feel like, you know, because of the directors that I've been, fortunate enough to be around for the last 20 years as an actor, you know, prepared me and gave me some insight to what that process was going to be. But at the end of the day, you know, you're on your own. And I realized that very quickly.
The morning you woke up and said, yeah, I need to do a documentary and tell what happened with Tribe. What happened that day? Why Tribe and why this movie?
Well, it wasn't a morning. I mean, you know, I kind of been curious. I have been curious about why the group broke up and whether or not they would make more music since their last show in 1998 in New York that we actually wound up getting footage for. You know, like a lot of bands, Tribe broke up, and the fans were heartbroken. Like, you know, when the Beatles broke up or NSYNC broke up. When you love something, you just want it to continue to go on forever. You know, and Tribe Called Quest, you know, they gave me a lot of good times. Their music excited me. You know, it was a part of my adolescence. It was, you know, they kind of, you know, broke the mold and broke a lot of stereotypes that were kind of, you know, being put down in hip hop and rap music at the time. And musically, you know, they're as important to me as, you know, the Rolling Stones and the Beatles are to my mom. You know, like I grew up with that music, and it was like, you know, I have an emotional attachment to it. So, you know, why Tribe Called Quest? You know, all those groups, the Doors, the Ramones, all those groups have been documented. Like, you know, like, so why not Tribe Called Quest? You know, like if you're 40 years old or a little younger or a little older, like those are the groups we listen to. Like, you know, it's like, you know, they're, you know, want to explore what the hell Jim Morrison was like. I want to know what, like, what's Q-Tip like, because it's the same thing, same character, same iconic quality in hip hop as Jim Morrison. You know, so
we know how Five feels about the documentary, but right now, at this moment,
yeah.
What do the other members of Tribe actually right now think?
Well, Ali Shaheed Muhammad and Jerobi are in Los Angeles. They're going to be at the big Los Angeles Film Festival screening tonight, so I think they feel good about it. You know, obviously, I know Fife has been real supportive and openly supportive and just openly honest about the experience that it's been making the movie. You know, Q-Tip, I haven't talked to. You know, last I heard from him, you know, he said he likes the movie, and he, you know, was rambling on MTV about, you know, all these other things, but he wanted everybody to go out and support the movie and see the movie. So I guess he wants everybody to go out and support the movie. And, you know, he said in that ramble, you know, that I did a great job, and, you know, he really likes the movie. So other than that, I'm kind of done sticking out my hand with him and trying to, you know, because I've done it publicly and I've done it privately a lot to try to, you know, rectify the situation. You know, I didn't start it or instigate the Twittering. That wasn't from me. I never had a Twitter account before he mentioned he didn't support the movie on Twitter. And, you know, it's unfortunate that's happened. I felt like it didn't need to happen. And really, honestly, like as a filmmaker, you know, independent filmmaking, I've been inspired by independent filmmakers. I participated in it, and at the end of the day, I had to look at myself in the mirror and just be like, what am I trying to do here? I realized that if I'm trying to be a director, I'm not going to be pushed around, bullied, or manipulated by anybody in terms of telling the story that I feel like is the best, most honest, respectable, and truthful story that I was trying to tell. Like the finished product of the movie, there's nothing mean-spirited, defaming or embarrassing about it, and there has never been any of that in any of the cuts I've shown. So all that shit that happened, it's unfortunate that it happened. It's unfortunate that it played out on Twitter and MTV and all that, but that's just the way it is. I've been in this business for 20 years. You could Google me. You don't see a lot of that stuff with me.
Very quickly, is there a Ken Burns cut? Because I want a longer documentary.
There is a Ken Burns cut. I mean, the DVD will have a lot of good stuff. There'll be, you know, there's a lot of anecdotes about songs, how songs were constructed. You know, there's a whole sort of, you know, pull out on Jay Dilla. There's some, you know, Large Professor who was really, you know, integral to the group, and there's a real fun thing on Busta Rhymes. And I think that the DVD and the extra scenes in there will be more informative about what kind of person Q-Tip is.
It's interesting that you say that because Fife said the one thing he wanted more of was like how the songs were constructed.
Yeah.
So it's actually there.
Yeah, I mean, I love all that stuff, but at the end of the day, it's like if I'm presenting a documentary and not a how they did it, there's a difference between a documentary and a DVD extra. There's a difference between like this 60-minute thing that you put together for a reissue of their albums, and I loved all that stuff, but that's not a story. Those are stories within the big story. The story of how Midnight Marauders was put together as opposed to lyrics to Low End Theory was put together. That's for the DVD. That's not for a movie. And I know for pretty sure that I wouldn't be sitting here with you doing a proper press junket with a movie coming out by Sony Pictures Classics if there was 90 minutes of how they did songs. I don't know any movie a documentary that's come out in theaters that's how they did the songs. So how they did the songs, I love all that shit. That's what drew me to the group and drew me to make the film in the first place. But I never set out to do a movie on how they made every song. They could put that out on their own. They could do that on their own, or it'll be on the DVD.
Speaking of songs, what's up with the soundtrack?
They chose not to do a soundtrack. They haven't recorded a song since 1998. They chose not to do a soundtrack. They had all the rights to do the soundtrack. They were asked by me, Sony Pictures Classics, and told by Sony Pictures Classics that if you do one original song, we were all pretty confident that it would be better than the chances of it being really good are high, and that if you do one original song, they would push it for an Oscar. They didn't do that, and that has nothing to do with me. Like they weren't doing songs before this movie, and they weren't doing songs after this movie. I thought, and my kind of nostalgic dream scenario that they do a song and then they would get nominated for an Oscar and and who knows what would happen, but it didn't happen. But that was presented to them. They have the rights to the soundtrack, and there's zero soundtrack, and they have all the music stuff was on them. They didn't do it. And Fife will tell you that, and they know exactly what the deal is with the soundtrack. I never tried to touch the soundtrack. That was always like, keep it, knock yourself out. If they didn't do anything with it, the fucked up thing about it is that because we gave them the rights, and I just assumed they would do something with it, we weren't able to do any soundtrack, which is the sad part.
Speaking of songs, I saw the opening credits, Madlib and Peanut Butter Wolf.
Yeah.
Was I tripping on that, or what? What was
Madlib did the music. All the score is Madlib. Everything that's not Tribe, that's not another, a song is Madlib. All the vibey kind of instrumental stuff is all Madlib. There's a couple of ones in there by Oh No, who's actually his brother. But yeah, I went to Madlib first. He was the first choice. He was always the idea to do it because I wanted someone who was derivative of a Tribe Called Quest and a derivative of that time in hip hop. And to me, he's the quintessential guy. His body of work and the amount of music that he makes is so. The volume of music is so high. He's just like you know what he's like. His personality is like Q-Tip without any stardom. Like Q-Tip, like they're both innately artists. They're always preoccupied with music. You can just tell. But Madlib, like he sans the charisma that Q-Tip had. Like Q-Tip is a very charismatic guy. Madlib is just music. And I always knew that when I was doing a sitcom, I was like, you want to do music? And thank God I didn't ask him to do that because they'd have been like, yo, we haven't gotten one fucking song from him because he works in a really crazy way. He's like a ghost. You never see him. But it worked out great, and he gave me so much great stuff. But like I didn't hear from him. I was like, what's happening? And then he like came to me with literally like 200 songs. I was like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do? I need like 10 of them. What are you going to do with this stuff? But it was fun work with him.
Who did you approach first to?
Q-Tip. I've known Q-Tip for about 14 years. In New York, as friends, we have people in common, and we've hung out, had dinners and such, and and I approached him first, and he said yes, and then he said you just have to talk to the rest of the group, and I did, and I went to I think Ali next, and then Jerobi, and then I finally caught up with Fife, and then the next day I was filming. Wow. It happened that quick.
Is there anything that you found out during this process that you were actually really shocked to know?
Well, obviously, I was unaware of Fife's health situation and how drastic that had become. That was probably the most shocking thing, like just really how dire, things had got with his health. And then the twist, that his wife's involvement was like, I didn't think he was going to even talk to me about that, let alone, I just didn't know it existed. Really, I had no idea. I knew he had diabetes and I knew he had suffered a little bit, but I didn't know the extent of it.
Well, you must have had some idea of what you thought the film was going to be going in.
Mm-hmm.
How different is that than what it ended up being?
The historical sort of element and the exploration of the golden era of hip-hop and growing up in New York and what that was like and that special time was like, and I knew that I wanted to go into that, and I knew that I wanted to get into the who, what, when, where, and why of A Tribe Called Quest, and the musicality of it, and highlighting certain songs. But so that stuff I knew. All the more of the tenuous dysfunction at times, and the fractured nature of the group's relationships. I had no idea to the extent of that it was at the extent that it was, and I had no idea that I was going to sort of be put in the middle of it. But it was very apparent from the first day of shooting that things, the chemistry that they have and had as musicians is very different than the chemistry they have now as people. And I never judged that or any really coming with preconceived notions of it. It's just like, musicians, especially, rappers from that era, they're like superheroes, like Q-Tip, the Abstract Poetic, Phife Dawg, Biz Markie, Big Daddy Kane, Grandmaster Flash, and the Furious Five. That's like superhero shit. That's like comic book characters, are like larger than life. But I knew that, and I didn't expect those characters who they are in A Tribe Called Quest to be the same people they are as people. I just didn't know that it was going to be so sort of put in front of me. I didn't realize that I was going to be able to capture them as regular guys so much for the film. So,
in your heart of hearts, do you think they're going to make another album, or are they just done?
I don't think they're going to make another album. I personally, based on all the things that I've been around, and I heard Q-Tip say that yesterday. To be honest with you, I heard him say that when I was doing a radio interview. It was me, Phife, and Big Boy on the radio. It hasn't aired yet, and it'll probably be like on the hip hop blogs. He says, "Nope, done." That's what he said yesterday. But he also, that's what I heard. That you'll see. He says that. So I have to just go with that. I don't think they're going to make any more music. I don't think that they're not going to tour and do shows. I think they'll do that. But as far as actually putting it together to make a full album, I don't see that happening. It's upsetting to me, and I know it's upsetting to the fans. But that's just, you ask me, like today I would say that. During the making of the movie, I thought, oh, this, that. And I would always be the first question, and I interviewed them multiple times. My first question was, so is A Tribe Called Quest going to make my music? That was the first question I always asked. And I would get different answers and responses based on what was going on those days.
Is it the egos?
I mean, I think it's egos. I think it's, times change, relationships change. What you want to do changes. There's no crime in wanting to try something new. There's no crime in wanting to go solo. There's no law. You're not breaking the law in that. So, I'm sure some of it's egos, some of it's business. They will talk very candidly about being frustrated with the record label, which is something that all musicians at some point go through. They talk a lot about that. I mentioned it during the film, but I didn't want the record label and that sort of theme that's been talked about in a lot of other explorations of groups to be the scapegoat, because I didn't believe that it was just about the record label. And that wasn't the movie that I don't think people care. If you don't know about the record label, you don't care about the record label, So that's why I kind of, and that was one of the things that were like, we were having problems with Jive. I was like, yeah, we mentioned it, but I don't care. I care, but I don't care. Like, that's not, every group has problems with the label. You get a certain amount of success, you want the record, the contracts to change and all that stuff. So, I think it was a combination of things, and I think it was just, you move on from things, and I think that they really captured lightning in a bottle, and I think particularly Q-Tip was very aware that you can't go backwards, you got to go forwards. And like any, great artist or any artist who's into, evolving and exploring what they can do. Miles, I really equate Q-Tip is similar to Miles Davis because, Miles Davis would do things, at different times in his career, like, we'll play Kind of Blue. I'm not playing Kind of Blue anymore. I'm doing this. And then we'll play this. I'm not doing it. I'm actually playing electric shit now. And Q-Tip kind of has that forward thinking about, like, I love all this stuff and I know what it means to the fans, but I want to try something new. And you have to respect that at the end of the day. I mean, he says it, he talks about it in the movie, and I really respect that about him as an artist because I think that, that kind of thing is, he's sort of, he's made himself into the people that he has idolized, and he has that spirit of artistic merit that he shoots for.
What was the process like in terms of putting the financing together, just as a filmmaker going in head first?
The process of financing the movie at first was literally like, here you go. Really? How much? Fuck, okay. That was the beginning process, and that kind of was the process through the first year of it. And then when I had some scenes put together and very rough cuts put together, I was able to, the other producers, executive producers, they came and backed me up and supported the movie financially. But essentially, I went to the Sundance Film Festival in 1992. I didn't know anything about anything. And I sat there and watched Robert Rodriguez talk about he had $7,000 and what it took to get that $7,000 to make, El Mariachi, and Quentin Tarantino put his balls on the line to make Reservoir Dogs. And and John Cassavetes is somebody that I respect and admire a lot and has given me a lot of inspiration. And I've made independent movies, some good, some bad, but they're always a struggle. And I've known that the only way to make a movie is to put your money where your mouth is. And fortunately, I was at a place financially where I could, get the ball rolling and start it and really, get a, like a production up and running. And then, because of, the quality of what we were doing, as a team, because it wasn't just me, we were able to gain some momentum and, and just, it's been gaining momentum since. It's really been it's really been independent filmmaking 101. It's just that same old story. I spent my own money, and it just kind of snowballed into something, bigger than it was.
What do you think this movie will do for those people who aren't in the 30s and 40s and missed the native tongue era, and what do you hope it will do for you as a director?
Cool, that's a good question. I mean, if you didn't grow up around this music, or you're not familiar with the music is for everybody. The music is great. It's like the Beatles. It truly is like that. It's like how, you can't say you might not even like the Beatles. You might be a Rolling Stones fan. There's always that. I like the Beatles, I like the Rolling Stones. But you cannot say that the Tribe Called Quest music is not good, it's not classy, it's not respectable. There's nothing derogatory about it. I know, like, one of their hugest fan bases when they came out now was women, and the way they articulated their respect for women, for black women, and it was never derogatory. Bonita Applebaum is equivalent of Gloria, equivalent of Barbara Ann by the Beach Boys, or Angie by the Rolling Stones. It was just this flirtatious, fun song. It wasn't, I want to do this to you and do that to you. It was like, I love you. I want to be with you. Look how beautiful you are. And you got a fat ass. It wasn't anything, disrespectful. And as far as, so I mean, like, and then the story is so beyond the music, and it goes so much more into depth about friendships and the struggle that it takes to maintain relationships with your brothers, with your friends, with the people that you love the most, and that also hurts you the most. As far as me as a director, it's given me the confidence to know that I could take something from scratch, or that I did this one time. I don't know if I could do it again because this damn near killed me. But it's given me the confidence to know that I could tell a story behind the camera, and the confidence that I know that I can make decisions and to trust my instincts. Because at the end of the day, I had a great team around me, but they all said, "What do you think, Mike? What do you want to do, Mike?" And you got to have the confidence to go, "All right, this is what I want to do." And that's, directing it at its core, at the end of the day, you have to be able to make those decisions at some point. And I always want to act, but I've wanted to make films, and this, has opened up the doors, for me to hopefully, do a narrative film, which I want to do by the end of the year. And I hopefully, in the next 3 years, my personal short-term goal is to be able to act and direct and to go back and forth and do that with the same amount of excitement for each one. Directing movies is a completely new frontier for me. It's an intimidating, exciting, huge open highway to me, and I want to continue trying to do it. That's what I want to continue doing, and also always do things as an actor.
Did you leave anything out? Is there something more that you wanted to? Something that you when you're sitting in the edit room, you're like, whoa, I wish I had done or explored this more.
No. Not for the cut in the movie theater.
Okay.
This is exactly the movie that I think I wanted to tell. I think that this is exactly the way it was supposed to be. However we got here, this was exactly the way it was supposed to be. I'm so proud of the movie and so just happy with the experience and just to me the most important thing, the emotional reaction that I've gotten from the movie is I wouldn't want to touch it now. I'd probably screw it up.
One question.
About the hip hop community, what kind of reaction have you gotten from hip hop heads, and that must have been a good feeling.
The response and the reaction from people like Fab Five Freddy to Pharrell to the old school photographers whose photos I use in the movie, to Questlove, and just the fans that have seen the movie means the world to me. Hearing Fab Five Freddy talk to Busta Rhymes yesterday and hear him just in the way he does, so enthusiastic and complimentary and excited and passionate about the movie and what I did for it means everything to me. Like Busta Rhymes, honestly, his review was like my Siskel and Ebert. Just a phone call that I had with him. I don't know if he'll ever talk about it publicly or whatever, but the phone call that I had with him yesterday for 3 minutes and hearing him say the things he said, that was my 2 thumbs up. That was a big deal for me. And I told him, I said, that means a lot to me. And people like Fab Five Freddy saying what they said and tweeting about it and, saying such nice things, it means a lot to me. And the people also that never knew Tribe Called Quest, hearing them talk about it, the movie, means the same thing to me too, because that was always the audience I wanted, because the Tribe fans are the easy ones, because they're coming in with preconceived notions and they're already in love, so.
When can we expect the DVD?
I think it's coming out, I don't know for sure, but I heard something about November something.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you.
All right? Thank you guys.
Best of luck.
No,
Good
thank
film.
you. Appreciate it.